Hello, everyone. Welcome to Talking Logistics, where we have conversations with thought leaders and newsmakers in the supply chain logistics industry. It's my great pleasure to welcome today's program Mark McIntyre, who's Senior VP of Operations at Transplace, and Ken Rogers, who's National Transportation Director at Nestle Waters. And today we're going to talk about control tower visibility, delivering value in transportation. Now, today everybody's talking about all the challenges that companies are having with transportation, whether it's tight capacity, rising transportation rates, more demanding customer delivery expectations, and the list goes on and on. So in order to navigate successfully through those challenges, you really need to have timely and accurate visibility to what's happening in your transportation operations. And that's where control tower visibility comes in. So what are some of the new capabilities around control tower visibility today, and how are companies leveraging it to deliver business value? Well, that's going to be kind of the main focus of today's conversation. It's certainly great to have both Mark and Ken on the program to kind of share their perspective and experience around this topic. So Mark, Ken, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Adrian. It's a real pleasure to be here. We really appreciate the opportunity. We've done many of these with you and Transplace, and we just really appreciate the long-term partnership with you guys.
Great, thanks. And Ken, thank you also for being part of the program.
Likewise, thank you for the opportunity.
So Ken, let's start with you. I think most people are probably familiar with Nestle Waters, but just in case, why don't you just tell us briefly, a little bit about the company and its supply chain and your current role and responsibilities there?
Sure. I'm the director of transportation for the U.S. and Canada. I have 7 regional transportation managers across the U.S. and Canada, and this year we're going to ship 700,000 shipments, about 500 million in spend. I started with the company in 1996. We were still owned by Nestle at that time, but we were called the Perrier Group of America. We had 5 spring water brands across the U.S. We had 6 retail factories. Our average length of haul was 400 miles in between factory and customer. And then in 2000, we did a rebranding to what's known today as Nestle Waters North America. And today we have 6 regional spring waters. And when I say regional, that's the difference, right? We're 180 miles now from factory to customer. So truly keeping the water in the region. We have 1 national brand. We make it at all of our factories. That would be the Nestle Pure Life. We have 19 retail factories now. And just last year, drinking water surpassed soda to be the number 2 beverage in the U.S. And some of our fastest growing products right now would be the sparkling regional spring water. That's growing at about 30% this year. So really taking a bite out of the other categories.
Yeah, no, very, very interesting. I can tell you in our family, certainly, water surpasses, soda for sure. And, one thing we know about shipping beverage, whether it's water or soda or anything, it's a heavy product, right? And has its own unique challenges around, transportation. So thank you for the overview there. So I'll stay with you, and then we'll bring Mark into the conversation here. So maybe as a way to get started. As you started working with Transplace now, I had the opportunity to attend Transplace's Shipper Symposium earlier this year, and you guys did a great presentation around this topic, control tower. I'm kind of curious to know a little bit about when you started working with Transplace around this control tower solution. What were some of the key capabilities you were looking for? What were some of your goals and objectives that you were trying to achieve?
We wanted to have start to finish visibility of an order as it's placed, and as it moves through the system. We wanted to be able to see it every step of the way, and then we wanted to also be able to share information with some of our key customers so that they could access and see those orders as well. So, working with Transplace, visibility obviously was the number 1 thing that we needed. We wanted to show that order from the time it's placed to the time it's appointed, to the time it's tendered to a carrier, And then we wanted to get status updates, either that order is going to be at risk, or that order is tracking on time, or that order is already delivered, or in the worst case scenario, of course, would be that that order is now past due. So that was our focus. And then to drill into it a little bit more, we wanted to have some collaboration with our customers. So Transplace created a tool that would allow a customer to log in to see their orders in the system, and they could click on a box in their order and send a message to either a Nestle employee or a Transplace employee asking for an update, or prioritizing, this order is urgent, please ensure carrier's on time. And then in turn, we can relay that message back to the carrier. So it's a very collaborative tool. My transport managers are in it every day. We're starting to roll with customers now. So it's very, very interesting.
I think what's interesting in what you just said there, is that this is not only a kind of an internal tool, right? Obviously to manage your operations and, along with Transplace, this is in some ways almost a customer relationship management tool as well, right? So and one of the things that we've been talking about here, for quite some time, is one of the trends that we see in the industry is, this increased focus on customer experience and almost the customer satisfaction being a key metric now in supply chain and logistics operations. Obviously, transportation plays an important role in customer experience and customer satisfaction. And it sounds like that was part of your objectives, right?
Oh, absolutely. The water category is full. So we have plenty of competitors out there. And the thing that we use to distinguish ourselves, of course, we have a very good quality product. But the other thing is customer service, is doing what we said we'd do, stepping up in times of need, honoring customers who are having a big run on sales, and delivering short leads to them. So, customer service is very important, and Control Tower is one of those tools that help us, give us a leg up on our competitors.
Right, and I think you probably just touched upon it a little bit here, but my next question before I go to Mark now is, I was going to say, well, why is ultimately, at the end of the day, why is having timely and accurate supply chain visibility, especially around transportation, more important than ever for companies like Nestle?
Well, as you said earlier, the transportation market is very volatile right now, and doing the best we can for our customers is paramount to us. On top of that, water moves at a very high pace through the food category. So customers will often, you said it earlier, it's a big, bulky item. It's something that they don't want to have a lot of inventory on. It's a just-in-time product. And Control Tower is a live document. It's very flexible. It's very agile. It gives us real-time information that we can relate to the customer. And it's helpful, sure.
Great. Well, Mark, you've been patient there, listening all along, and obviously you and Ken have been working together, for some time around this. When you listen to kind of everything that Ken just said in terms of what the capabilities they were looking for, and what the objectives are, the driving forces. I mean, are you hearing the same thing from the other companies you work with? In other words, I mean, what's driving demand for supply chain visibility, Control Tower visibility?
Sure, that's a great question. If you were to go out and poll 100 supply chain leaders across all verticals, I think, and ask them what are the things that are most critical to you, what are the things you need to enhance within your supply chain, I think they would all lead, or the vast majority would lead with visibility. It's just paramount in today's world. And why is that? I think there's a laundry list of reasons, but certainly I think about three that come to top of mind. One would be retailer demands. You've already mentioned it. Retailer demands are at an all-time high, and they just continue to get more demanding and more demanding. They've got programs that push back fines on shippers if they're late, if their orders aren't filled, but also if they're early, which is really new in the industry, and others are starting to adopt those same practices. And that's all around inventory reduction, backroom stock, being at a very minimal so that back rooms aren't just cluttered. And it's working. There's statistics around this that show it's working. Many others are adopting it. And so I think there's going to be more and more of that. It's all about reliability and really where is that order at all times. Also, this control tower is going to give us some enhanced analytics that we haven't had before. And I think data is key in this whole realm, if you will. And then finally, we live in a consumer-driven world. If you go online later this afternoon and order something online, you'll immediately get a link emailed to you, and you can track that from the time it leaves their dock to the time it gets to your doorstep. And so consumers love that. They want that. I know my family loves that. And so Control Tower just really helps us close the gap on a lot of those issues.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I think, we talk about consumers as if consumers are different than B2B workers, but we're all the same people, right? So we kind of see what we get in the consumer world, and we kind of say, well, hey, why can't we have, if I'm able to track this Amazon package, or I'm able to track this thing that I ordered from XYZ website, or I'm able to see, where my Uber driver is and what the estimated time of arrival is to pick me up. Why can't I see the same thing for my shipments, my water, and when that truck is going to arrive, so that I can, if I need to adjust my labor at my receiving warehouse, I can do so, whatever the case might be, right? So I think, we talk about those two worlds as if they're separate, but in reality, we're beginning to see some of these expectations and capabilities that have certainly been more common, if you will, more mature on the consumer side, working their way now into the business world. Which I guess leads me to the next question for you, Mark. So you talked a little bit about analytics, but what new capabilities are, available today from a control tower standpoint? I mean, what are some of the things that are available today that, let's say, weren't available just a few years ago?
So, EDI has been around for decades. And there's been a long time period from EDI to where we are now. And there's really been nothing in between to enhance that. And I think we're really starting to see stuff that is going to definitely enhance the customer experience. It takes EDI to a whole new level. APIs is one example of that. Certainly telematics companies are out there more and more, and we're talking to them every day. And how do we become more integrated with those types of companies? It's a faster setup. There's more advanced analytics around that type of setup. And it's more real time, which again, going back to our previous question, is what's really important to people. And so, I think we've embraced it. We're talking to our customers all the time about embracing it. And so shippers, 3PLs, carriers, they really need to embrace these new communication solutions to feed into these control towers that'll really give their customers and them a much better experience.
Great. Yeah, no, absolutely. We've certainly seen a lot, particularly over the past couple of years with real-time freight visibility solutions, tapping right into the devices in the trucks to get that real-time visibility. And certainly, even on the algorithm side, right, with predictive analytics capabilities and machine learning and so forth, a lot of these buzz terms you hear a lot about today, I think they're starting to get incorporated into this whole area of control tower visibility to really, provide capabilities that really weren't, possible or scalable just a few years ago. Ken, going back to you, so let's share with us a little bit about how you went about deploying this solution. Both internally with your team. You mentioned you've got a team there of transportation folks that use this solution, but as well as with your carrier partners. And can you share a little bit of some of the results to date?
Yeah, sure. Starting with the carriers. So the predictive analytics you were talking about earlier, we use Forekites to help us track our carrier partners and the orders. We also use, EDI through Transplace. We're using check calls through Transplace. So between the three avenues, we have close to 95% coverage on everything. There are some orders that don't get tracked because a carrier, for one reason or another, either thought he was connected EDI or thought his dispatch sent a check call for some reason didn't. So it's usually an anomaly when we find those situations. So we started with Forekites about 6 months before we rolled Control Tower. knowing Control Tower was coming, we pushed very hard to get folks up and running. And as well, before that, we were pushing EDI 214s and check calls with our carriers. So our carriers were ready when we had the Control Tower. Everybody was already set and running, and Transplace worked well with FourKites, and great connectivity between Control Tower and FourKites. It's seamless to me. And then for my managers, when we started this, what we did is we piloted first our transport managers, and we gave them 2 weeks with the system. Go ahead and try to find the bug, try to find something that you don't like about the system, something that we need changed. After 2 weeks, our managers came back with a small list, but we had some corrections to make. Made those corrections, and then we rolled it to our customer service managers, and the same thing, asked them to go ahead and put it through its paces, and they came back with some things, but a lot fewer than the transport managers. And then we gave it to our sales reps and did the same thing. Only feedback was, the gee whiz factor. And then, from there, we started piloting with one of our customers. And got some feedback from them. And so now we're at the place where we're ready to roll with a couple of customers. And, that's how we did it. One step at a time with pilot testing.
So how long would you say that so it sounded like you were working with FourKites ahead of time and the carrier partners to kind of get that in place first prior to the Control Tower. And then once you started pilot testing, how long would you say that whole process has been so far?
Well, the ideation part of it is what took a long time. I had a vision, my transport managers had a vision, folks at Transplace had a vision, and getting Control Tower to where it is, that ideation session, that probably took us about 6 months to get through everybody's vision to what we wanted to build. And then from the time we all came to an agreement to where my guys were piloting it, that was 4 months. So yeah, Transplace moved very fast once we all came to an agreement on what we'd like and how we wanted to see it. It went fast after that. But and I think it should take a long time, that ideation, because you have to bring in your employees and you have to address their needs and make them part of the solution, because that obviously will help you with change management down the road.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I mean, back in when I started my career, I was new product development engineer at Motorola. And, one of the rules of thumb with product development is that, the more time you spent in the design phase and making sure you got, things right, it would be, things would run more smoothly than if, once you got into, let's say, volume production and you discovered something that was wrong or not right, it would be much more costly and time consuming to try to fix it at that end, right? So I think there's always a benefit of investing more time up front to really, to your point, getting the buy-in, getting the input, from all the relevant stakeholders. And it sounded like you really had a good collaborative process here to get that definition in place and those requirements in place. And then it sounds like, it's been relatively smooth, with, as you would expect, iterations, throughout as you start, generating some experience here. So Mark, I mean, what's next, with the solution? I mean, what new capabilities are on the horizon?
So first, there's certainly things on the horizon. I'd like to kind of start with, as we have kind of went through this journey with Control Tower, we've discovered that it's giving us a whole new view of the world just from a data standpoint. And so we have this group, we call it Think Tank. It's a bunch of business analysts that pour through this data, and they're looking for trends. They're looking for, receiver of choice kind of stuff. And so that's near and dear to Ken's heart. And we hear a lot about shipper of choice, but there's also another part of the equation, and that's receiver of choice. And in today's tight capacity world, getting those trucks in and out is pretty critical. And so we're kind of pouring through that data to look to see what timestamps look like from arrival to departure at a receiver. So I think that's pretty cool. But just from an enhancement standpoint going forward, certainly international is on our mind. We want to be able to do the same stuff for same track and trace and visibility for ocean shipments, and be able to plot that out across the map and have visibility there. Also, you mentioned it a little bit, predictive analytics. We already have a semblance of that inside a control tower. We would just want to enhance that by machine learning. And, you go into an airline system now and book a flight, it'll tell you what percentage that lane typically runs on time. I'm not sure if you can believe that or not, but, it's there. But we want to use that type of logic and then also bring that into our annual RFP events, so that we're doing scenario planning on a certain subset of lanes with a certain subset of carriers. What is the predicted outcome from a service standpoint? I think that's really important, and I'm looking forward to getting to that. We'll also try to incorporate weather, market seasonalities. We're in a very constrained market now, but for the most part, the market kind of flows each year about the same. There's some spikes or some valleys, but for the most part, it follows the same trend. There's a lot of hype right now around machine learning. We've kind of bought into that hype. We've went out and partnered with a company that's going to help us with that, and so the journey has begun, and I'm really excited about it. And then the last thing I would mention, and Ken and I haven't talked about this, it's a little bit Star Wars, but and it's going to really take a collaborative carrier partner to do this with us. And I think once we do it, it's going to really go fast. And by that I mean I'm actively looking for and have talked to many carriers about, is there a way for Transplace to tap into the carrier's telematics? Can I tap into OmniTrax or the PeopleNet or whatever system they're using? And obviously there has to be firewalls and things that I don't need to see, don't want to see, but what I would love to see is, where's the truck, obviously, but taking that a step further, I'd like to see, is that truck empty? And if it is it unplanned? And so in today's world, carriers are coming in 150, 200% overbooked every day, and so it's not an issue. But, as we all know, it's cyclical, and at some point it's going to become an issue for them again. And so I believe we can be a better partner to carriers by helping them fill their empty miles and just keep, loads on those trucks. Today a load may deliver in Riverside, California, and we may have a load in Rancho Cucamonga, California. And with this new thought, we could just keep that truck rolling and really eliminate some deadhead miles. So I'm actively pursuing that. I think that's probably not Star Wars, but it's going to definitely take a collaborative, open-minded partner.
I thought you were going to say you were going to build a Death Star when you said Star Wars. So
we're working on that.
you got me all excited there. But what you just talked about is certainly in all seriousness. I think certainly something, actually we just today, wrote on Talking Logistics, something I think related to that in terms of really having forward visibility to available capacity, right? So if you know that a truck that's currently booked is going to be in, let's say it's going from Boston to Chicago, it's going to be in Chicago in 2 days' time, you got that visibility and you've got a load that it's going to originate in Chicago in 2 days' time, you can keep that truck moving and with the appropriate business rules and all that kind of, I think it becomes a win-win-win for all the the stakeholders involved there. Ken, go ahead.
Carriers have been doing that themselves inside of their own networks for years, so that's nothing new to them. But I sit in a centralized model where I have 40 customers under one roof, and so I have to believe that it would help carriers on their side to just keep those trucks moving. Could even reduce staffing needs for them if I was able to just close the loop for them. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the bottom line being is that, a lot of these new technologies are opening doors to new possibilities and opportunities. And then obviously, at the foundation of a lot of this is all this, volume of data that now you're able, through the appropriate use of technology, convert into insights that ultimately is going to drive continuous improvement and, new ways to drive efficiencies in the operations. Ken, same question to you. I mean, what's next for Nestle Waters? I mean, what are some of the things you're looking at, and particularly within the realm of control tower visibility?
So what's next for us is to roll with more customers than what we have piloted so far. Eventually, I'd like to be able to eliminate our track and trace program and turn turn those customers that were doing the track and trace for right onto Control Tower and let them see their own orders live as they need to see them. So that's the biggest thing. Futuristic, I love the Star Wars that Mark talked about. We have a communication button for our customers on Control Tower to let them ask questions about their order. I would like to have a page for our carriers, so our carriers could log in, they could see their orders, and they could also send us messages, and likewise we could send them message. So if a customer, for instance, is looking for an order, and that came across one of my transport managers, he could, in Control Tower, shoot an IM message directly to his carrier, get the message, and then reply right back to the customer, all in one system. So futuristic, that's really what I would like to see. Right now, I'm happy with what we have, but I think futuristic, that would be helpful. And also, I like the Star Wars. That would be great. Partner with our carriers more, keep them moving.
Well, it sounds like we'll have to do another episode at some point down the road. We'll probably start, title it somewhere along the line Star Wars, if George Lucas gives us permission to. But we can follow up on this idea and see how it's has evolved. But as we're running short on time here, so I just want to kind of as a way to wrap up. And Ken, I'll start with you, and then Mark, you can add your thoughts as well. So Ken, as a way to wrap up, I mean, what advice or recommendations would you give to other companies that are looking to undertake a similar journey that you've been on so far?
Well, the first thing is that this isn't the silver bullet. This isn't going to fix all of our problems. It's going to help us communicate better to our customers and our carriers. So in that sense, it's an improvement, but you're still going to have issues. Things are still going to come up, and the wheels are going to come off at some point. And so it's not a silver bullet. So don't look at it that way as you roll this out. Go slow, ask a lot of questions, involve a lot of people on your team, get them involved early, and that's just going to help you down the road with change management. So that's my recommendation.
No, great input there. I think, I think history has shown that companies, whether it's Control Tower, whether it's an ERP implementation, whether it's any kind of enterprise technology, that if they go in expecting it to be a silver bullet to solve X, they're going to be greatly disappointed, because exceptions occur. People are still involved in a lot of these processes, especially when things break down. And then again, I think if you're trying to automate a broken process, and then also look at the process side of things, you're setting yourself up for failure there. So I think that's great to look at the technology, but also look at it as an opportunity perhaps to transform some of the business processes and the way you communicate and collaborate with all the relevant stakeholders there. Mark, your thoughts on words of advice or recommendations?
I think Ken really nailed it. I appreciate the partnership and how we went through this process together. It was very much collaborative. We gained cross-functional requirements from all different parts of the Nestle organization. I think that's important to get buy-in from all those cross-functional groups. It helps down the road for sure. And then we didn't try to do it right away. We tried to do it right. And so we took our time. I think we're all pretty proud of the results. And like with any type of new functionality, you want to test it and try to break it. And we took our time and did that. And again, pretty proud of what we developed.
Great. Well, I think we covered a lot of ground here today. It's certainly a very meaty topic. I always say at the end of all our episodes, we always just manage to scratch the surface on these topics. But I think both of you provided some great, insights and perspective. And Ken, with your experience, using this so far and providing your insights on that. And Mark, your thoughts as well. So I know you both are very busy gentlemen. So I really appreciate you both making the time to be with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Great. I want to thank those of you that joined us. If you're watching this episode on demand, either at the Transplace website or on Talking Logistics, and you've got a question or a comment for Ken or Mark, you can post it there, and I'm sure they'll be more than happy to respond via that medium. Again, thank you for joining us on this episode of Talking Logistics, and look forward to seeing you again in the future. Have a great day.